Hello, everybody. Welcome to Lauren.live, the spirituality, health, and lifestyle podcast. Today, I have Ulrika Karlsson with me. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. And thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you for being here. We were just chatting before. We both wore our heart. She has a dress and I have a sweater. I mean, this is too perfect. Synchronicity right there. Valentine's Day week. This will come out after Valentine's Day, but we are recording a couple days before. So I think that's so perfect. I'm really excited to chat with you and meet with you. Ulis is a spiritual teacher, a yoga therapist, and a soul coach, as well as an author. We'll talk about her books and we'll talk about all the things that she has been working on and is working on. But I would love just, as usual, kind of just a quick intro on who you are and then how you found yourself into all the spiritual stuff. Is that something that you grew up with or you found later in life?
Thank you for asking. No, it's not something that I grew up with at all. On the contrary, actually. So for many years in my life, I had very severe sleeping disorders. And these sleeping disorders eventually took me into deep, deep depression. And I became also suicidal. I only slept 15 minutes per night. So in my first book, my autobiography, I write about my journey back from, the state of being depressed and being suicidal and really, scattered and back home into my heart. So that's my first book. And that was also my spiritual awakening, the year of 2008. So I went through the whole process of being depressed and divorced at the same time. And I just woke up spiritually and sexually and, really had to change my whole life, everything that I did, everything that I was or believed that I was. So, yeah, it was quite a journey. And here I am now.
Wow, that's amazing. And I saw one of your books. Is it 247? What does that mean, that specific time, or did you just pick that? What does that have to do with your sleeping?
Yes.
Yeah.
So 2:47 a.m., The Journey Home to My Heart. That's my first international book, and it's my autobiography. And that was the time that I woke up every night from this horrific nightmares where I was being murdered, tortured, and slaughtered every night after 15 minutes of sleep. So I only had 15 minutes per night of sleep. And 2:47 a.m. was the time that I woke up with this horrible dream still, lingering in my mind and body, mind, and spirit. So, that was really... So it's not a coincidence that the book is 247. And afterwards, I learned that 247 actually is like a spiritual number, and it also has to do with the liver.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I've done an episode on this before, and I really believe like the heart thing, right? Synchronicities, but time, of course, the angel number is like 1111, 111, 222. But that was interesting that you were waking up at the same time. I've had that before too, where something happens at the very same time. It keeps happening. It's like a sign. And I have also heard that when we wake up at certain times of the night, different times signify different things going on in your body. So that's interesting about the liver.
Yes, and the liver represents like anger and frustration. So obviously I had a lot of anger, undealt and unresolved anger in my life. And I didn't know it at the time, obviously. But so at 2:47, I only slept 15 minutes per night for years.
How did you survive?
This pushed me. Yeah, I barely did. I mean, every day I was, standing in front of the bathroom mirror, looking into the mirror, and all I could see was this sort of, really hollow eyes, and eyes when I looked at myself full of disdain and self-contempt, a lot of self-hatred. And every day I was standing there with a lot of pills in my hand thinking, is this the day, that I'm going to end my life. And then obviously there was this spark of something. I didn't even know what it was. But so I didn't commit suicide. And here I am, decades after, and guiding and helping other people to increase their consciousness and their, to come back into their hearts and their spirituality. Because I lived previously to my depression, I was very shut off or shut down, very suppressed. I was like, all up in my headspace, being very mental, planning ahead, always doing a lot of stuff, always being in activity one way or another. So, yeah.
Well, I'm really happy that you're here, and I'm glad that you were able to work past all of that. And what now you didn't know at the time, but now looking back, like what was that spark and what really did like save your life? How did you move out of that time?
Thank you for asking. So I think it's like, for me personally, I was, as I already mentioned, I was so shut down. Like I was too much in the young energy, too much in the masculine, immature masculine. And I had this illusion that I always had to earn love, or earn that I wasn't good enough, and I had to prove myself all the time. So, and this took me further and further down into the rabbit hole, where I was just so full of contempt and a lot of hate for myself. So in order for me to come back, there were many moments, and I write about them and share them in the book 2:47 a.m., which is also here to aid others who suffers from mental illness, to see that there's a way through. And that's depression also can be, if you say it like deep, that you are depressed, deep rest. You are in a deep rest. So it means like you can be sort of a seed that is planting in a dark place, just waiting to grow into something else.
Yeah.
So for me, one of the turning points was when I had all these. I was feeling so much like a volcano that was always, supposed to erupt, but I tried to suppress it and control it by always distracting myself, or by always being busy, or being the good girl, trying to control my body, my weight, my appearance, or have good grades, whatever, always moving. So one of the turning points was when I left to the Swedish archipelago, because I realized that I was so, so tired. Because I never told anybody about this, not even my husband. I just said that I was really, really tired. I had a baby and a 2-year-old son at the time. So I said to him, I really need to go away, because I was so sensitive of all sounds and lights. So I couldn't even bear my own kids, when they were crying, or when there was a phone ringing or anything. So I go out, it's in the winter time, and I go out to the Swedish archipelago, and I, sort of sighing, like, oh my gosh, maybe I can finally get some sleep. And I didn't, of course. But then that morning when I woke up, I felt something within me. And at the time, I didn't know what it was, but it really, really scared the living daylight out of me. And I tried to suppress it. I tried to, use my mental, or to just, didn't acknowledge it or ignore it. So I go out for a walk in the woods in Sweden. It's winter, so it's a lot of snow, and it gets dark like 3:00 in the afternoon here. And then I can feel this sort of thing within me stirring or rising, and it terrifies me, because obviously I don't know what it is. So I try to walk even faster, because at the time I had eating disorders as well. So I tried to control my pace and try to control myself. And then I just sort of hear a snap, and something moves really, really fast within me. And all of a sudden I have this sort of like a knife stabbed through my heart. So it's this massive, intense pain, and I'm holding my heart like this. And then I just keep thinking that, wow, this is strange that the snow is actually coming up, to hit me in my face. So it was me who fell down into the snow, and I was lying curled up in fetus position and with this massive pain. And I thought that I was going to die, like I had a heart attack or something like that. And then I hear this horrifying, terrifying noise, like a big scream. And I'm like, gosh, there's like, wolves or badly injured animal around here. But all these sounds came from me. So I lay there for so many hours in this cold snow, and I lost track of time and space. And I was crying, like hot tears just streamed from me, and I was making these funny noises and sounds and a lot of screams, and my body was shaking and shivering. And then when it was pitch dark, I just come back to my senses, and it's so silent. And for the first time in decades, my inner realms are so still and so peaceful. So it was like a massive tantrum release where I realized that I need to, I can't live like this anymore. I need to do something differently with me and my life.
Wow. That's so powerful. So really, you think that like you had that spiritual pain and that experience, it was like a jolt, like a wake up.
Yeah. And it turned out that it was, decades of years of suppressing strong emotions.
Yeah.
And I think it's like that for all of us, that we, in our societies, we suppress our feelings, how we feel. We're always supposed to be, the good girl or the good guy, try to be effective, productive, be a good citizen. And so many of us are so unpracticed on showing and being and accepting strong emotions, and especially emotions that we tend to label as negative, right? So, and I'm from Sweden, and in our culture, we have this also that everything should be like really, you shouldn't be too happy or too excited, or you shouldn't be too this or that. You should be very sort of square and not to stick out whatsoever. And so we learn very early to really suppress our strong emotions and to hold them within. And I feel that a lot of these mental illness that we see in the Western world is that we are disconnected from ourselves, disconnected from spirit, from our souls. And we are too much just up in the headspace, in the mental mind, and with all these thoughts and, thinking that we have to look like this or be like this or earn this much money or whatever it might be. So many of us are disconnected from ourselves and from spirit, from source. And it can manifest in so many ways, like cancer and depression and sleeping disorders, eating disorders, all the things that we see here in the Western societies.
I agree with you. I think most of our physical, and mental, emotional ailments and challenges are energetic and spiritually. It's all intertwined for sure. I think, of course, if this is our vessel here on earth, like, of course, it's going to manifest in a physical way, right? So I think a lot of, hopefully, you always hope, but I think a lot of people I've spoken to that have had spiritual awakenings or like the darkest soul night or things like that, it's like they've had something like an illness or something that had to happen for them to wake up.
Exactly. Or like an accident or divorce or whatever. Yes.
Exactly. Yes. To wake you up. Yeah. What an incredible...
And it is like that because also from chaos comes divine order, Chaos actually means, divine order sort of in Greek. So, and in the life process, we need both, the death phase the surrendering, the letting go, the transformation as well. Because if nothing ever dies, how can something new, be born? But we have so much emphasis on, on the life phase, and also like the 100 years here in Sweden, we have changed the society so much. So we have moved both life and death out from our homes. Just 100 years ago here in Sweden, people were having their babies at home, and, the old people were living with them and they died. So life and death are really entangled, and it was a very natural, cycles of life. But we have moved, many of us, give birth, myself included, to in hospitals away from home. So the siblings or relatives might not see the new life and the process. And then when we die, maybe we also have moved into elder home or institutions, and we die there. So it's nothing natural for the modern human being, although it's so natural. But we don't see it and experience the way we have. And that means that many of us are afraid of it. And when we have this fear, because our societies are based on fear and lack, we have so much fear and lack in our Western part of the world. So the fear of dying also makes us fear of living life fully, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. And I mean, obviously we're very similar to Sweden or other parts of Europe. Here in the US, it's probably actually even worse here as far as death and fearing it. And obviously with COVID, I think that woke a lot of people up to, wow, like there's been a lot of death. And I mean, whatever your thoughts are on all of that, but I've just noticed, I feel like there has been more death, and not just even physical people dying, but death of the way that we've been living. And I think ego death, a lot of people are having their spiritual awakenings. And so it's something that's like so challenging and hard and scary, but also like necessary for our growth. And I have had a couple people on even talking about that, just like getting more comfortable with the idea of death. It is inevitable. This is part of our our human experience here. As you are born and then you die at some point. And I think we're all having to we're facing that more. So I don't know. It's an interesting time, and I'm glad that we're talking about, even just talking about it more. It's helpful because it feels kind of like this taboo topic, or you go into a hospital and you die, and it's really not that natural if you think about how our ancestors lived, right? And
exactly.
Yeah. Well, I want to keep moving along just because I know we have so much to talk about, but so you had that whole thing happen. So then how did you said, okay, I need to stop living like this. I need to make my change. Like, so what did you start doing? And when did you start writing the books, and kind of what did your healing process look like?
So basically it's quite simple, but not always so easy. But what it's all about is really to go inwards, because we have so much focus on the outer realms, right? And many of us live our whole lives out there, myself included, before my crash, to get acknowledgements from others, or get credits or feedback from others, or to get, paid or interact, in the outer realms, to be approved of by your appearance or your work, whatever it is. We live our lives so much out here. But basically, we need also to turn the focus inwards and to look into ourselves and to become aware of our patterns, my pattern of my thoughts, my behaviors, my way of life, my choices, my actions. And so a big part of my journey was actually to feel all of these feelings that I've suppressed for decades. And not only, to know that they're there, like, oh, I have a lot of grief or a lot of sorrow, I have a lot of anger, I have a lot of, fear within me, stored in my subconscious or unconscious mind, and they are stored within the body, because we only have 5% of consciousness. 5% of consciousness. And that means that we have 95% of unconscious behaviors, unconscious thoughts, unconscious programs. And these are all stored within the body, within the cells, within every, tissue, every organ. And we don't know about this, and we think that like I'm eating healthy, or I do yoga, and I just think positive whenever there's a challenge or a problem or a wound. I just put it in a bubble and blow it away. It doesn't work like that, because everything that is stored deep within you, within your subconscious or unconscious mind, within the body, needs to be transformed within the body. So that's what I had to do. I had to face layers and layers of fears of not being good enough, of being rejected, of, fears of who I was, because I'm an empath, a highly sensitive person, and an empath on top of that. So through my whole life, I've been feeling, so much from the outer realms, thinking that it was something wrong with me, because I always felt so much in a society that didn't approve of it, that we should always be very neutral. So I suppressed it. I, hid it down deep within me, and I had to move in there and to see it and to really feel it. Because if I've hidden away unconsciously or consciously a lot of fears, then I can't transform it by being happy. I need to transform them in the essence that they were stored within. So if they were stored as fear, then I have to go in and face the fear, feel it, and to let it move through me and to be expressed through me. And that is my personal, experience as well as professional. I've been working with this ever since. So whatever is stored within each and one of us, and we all have a lot, 95% of programs that might not even be ours from the beginning. It might be our ancestors, our parents, from our heritage or environment where we grow up. So, but we are not practiced to this. It's like if I feel something that feels uncomfortable or that scares me, then I distract myself with my phone or with something to eat or with
alcohol,
with a jab
or anything.
Anything, drugs, alcohol. And I know you in the States also, a lot of workaholics. A workaholic is actually a trauma response. A lot of the responses that we have in the Western world are trauma responses from where we were like children.
Yeah. Instead of just being or allowing yourself to feel or, just express, it's like we just do something else and you're just diverting. You just really a lot of us in wherever you are in the world,
matrix.
It's just, we're just so and we don't just be. Yeah.
Exactly.
So do you feel like
we are so much in the matrix with all the programs that are there? So, and we are unpracticed and unfamiliar, and it really scares us to feel all these deep, emotion, and especially as we also label some of them as not good.
Right.
But emotions means energy in motion. So energy in motion is meant to just move through us. It comes as information. And if we don't see the information, then it's stored. And I call them like frozen emotions. And if these frozen emotions are stored for 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, 2, 3 decades, what's going to happen? These frozen emotions causes blockages within you, in your body, mind, and spirit. And that means that you don't have the flow, the easiness that we are designed to have. And so these frozen emotions then causes diseases, not being at ease, diseases and symptoms and sicknesses.
So, I know you said it's your personal story, but if you were to speak from your personal story and just what with helping people, do you recommend if people are, conscious to something? It could be anybody, like even me right now, if I'm like uptight about something, or if you're, suffering with like depression, or you're in a, an intense part of life, or you're realizing your childhood had trauma, like whatever it is, any feeling that's suppressed or you're dealing with, do you recommend then allowing it to come through and feeling it and then letting it go? Because I know there's like a fine balance, and I've, like anyone, I've had my time with like anxieties, and I've noticed allow yourself to feel it, honor the feeling, but then let it go and don't hold too much onto it. There's a fine balance, because if you over-identify with the feeling, then you're just always going to be like, I'm anxious and stuff, versus just kind of like acknowledging it, feeling it, but then also I don't want to identify with that. Like I allow it to just be or pass through or teach me something. So it's kind of like this fine balance. Like what do you recommend for people to start thinking about? Like how do you approach these feelings that come through?
That's a very good question. And I totally agree that the balance is really fine. So it's nothing about attaching to anything, not to attach to the good things, like good feelings or good stuff, or the bad stuff. But, the soul is so much higher intelligence than our minds, and our bodies are so much more intelligent than our minds. So actually our bodies are wiser than our, logical and rational and analytical mind, because the body just knows. So I would say that it's not up to us to control the emotions, as they are information just passing through. So if you have grief for X amount of hours or days or whatever, you have to be there until maybe it's like increasing, but everything is energy and everything is constantly changing. The only thing that is constant is to change itself. So if you can be with something, not to judge it, not to try to change it, not to suppress it, to diminish it, to distract yourself from it, just to be with it in the expression that wants to come through you for as long as it needs to, then, because then you are the observer, right? You are observing. You're both feeling it, but you are also observing it. And that means that when you observe it long enough, or when you observe it and acknowledge it, then it goes away. Then it's transformed. And then there might be new layers of sorrow or anger or, traumas from previous, in this lifetime or other lifetimes. As a yogi, we believe in reincarnation, that energy never dies, right? It just shifts and transforms into other shapes and forms. But if you can be with whatever that is in the natural and organic expression that wants to be expressed for as long as it's need to be there, to learn you something or to teach you, then it's going to, just be transformed. But many of us, we are like, okay, so now I've been crying for 20 minutes. So now I have to go to this meeting, or now I have to do this, or so we are not being with it in its natural form for as long as it needs to. So we just, it's like we are digging, but then we get tired and then we move away. So, and everything that is stored within the energy system, it's going to be contained in the energetic system that is your body, mind, and spirit, until you consciously, and with the intention, you want to transform it. Because even though that we're just sitting here, you and I, Lauren, cells are dying and new cells are born, right? But my behaviors, my patterns, my limited belief system is within my cells. So even though that new cells are coming, being reborn every second, my patterns are imprinted in the DNA in my cells, right? So that means that I need to change my patterns. I need to change my limited beliefs, my frozen emotions, so I can have this transformation that I'm longing for.
Yeah, it's so, whenever, I like dissect this with somebody, like the way you said that with the cells, it's like so like perfectly like created and intertwined and detailed. And it just makes me so like, oh my gosh, our bodies are so smart and so intelligent. We like dumb it down. Our brains dumb everything down, but it's a fascinating, it's like a computer, right? There's just always things zipping through, and until you become conscious, you really can't even start wrapping your head around it. But there's messages all the time. And of course we have so much illness and sickness and struggles and mental health because like you said, with the programming, we just haven't been, and some of it's on not purposeful. I think there are some programming things out there along with this whole awakening that have been programmed to make us fail and control us. But also I do think there are a lot of people, doctors and good people, that just maybe haven't been trained in certain ways. I don't think there's ill intent. We just haven't been conscious to it. And that's what's so amazing about these conversations happening right now on podcasts and in books. There's so much available. And a lot of this isn't new. It's been around in, different spiritualities and practices from the beginning of time. But I'm so happy it's becoming more mainstream and people are starting to realize, right, like somatic healing and like our nervous system. We have so much damage and there's so much working against us. I don't mean to be negative. It's just the reality. We have so many chemicals and toxins and then suppression and distraction. And so learning to just like block that, like just move it out and just really being, and like you said, experiencing and just being conscious. And you can't rush it. It takes time, but our bodies, our minds, it all works together. It's so amazing. It's beautiful, but it's quite the experience being a human. There's so much to experience. It's like wild.
Exactly. And so the other book that I just want to mention is the book Holy Fuck and Sacred Water, The Secret Connections to Everything. And I partly agree with what you say, but we are consciously programmed by people throughout history.
Yeah.
So there are conscious programs. And I'm just now writing a book about the soul and the divine soul's perspective on what is going on in the world today. So this book will be released the 6th of June, 2022, because that's also a very important date.
Okay.
But so we have all unconsciously been consciously programmed throughout history. And we don't even know about it in this lifetime. So this lifetime and the Great Awakening and, the spiritual ascension that we are in, it's all about remembering who we are at the soul level. Yeah. And that we are capable of so many things. So many things. Like from the beginning, if you follow the soul's lineages, where do we come from? We come from the divine source. Some people call it God, other people call it universe. It doesn't matter what you call it, but we are divine, beings. And the divine essence resides within each and one of us as our souls, because they know who we are. But we have been consciously programmed not to be aligned with our souls.
Or to have like a veil, right? Like amnesia.
Yeah.
Now, do you mean, and I agree with you, like you said, I do think like just to clarify, I think there are some people throughout history and currently that like, yes, they are programming us. It's known, it's meant to control. And it could even just not a conspiracy theory. It's even just like, look at like marketing. It's just diverting people to spend money, right? Or do this, do that. And so, but I also think some of it, there's people trying to help, right? Like certain doctors or teachers, like they're doing their best. They love people. They want to help people, but they may not really be conscious to some of the stuff that we're talking about, how like we could probably heal so much better if we went more deep into the nervous system, things like that. So just to clarify for the audience too, like there's multiple things at play. It's not just one way or not, but we have a lot to sort through. But are you saying that you believe that we've been designed by a consciousness, God, source, whatever you want to call it, to be unconscious as humans? And we have to like awaken. That's part of our journey?
Yes.
Okay.
Our souls strive for, awakening. Our soul's purpose is to that we are in this, spiritual and divine evolution. If you just look like, like my lifespan, I'm born as a baby and I'm born with everything that I need, but then we go to school and there's certain systems in the society that really kills the creativity and, who we are, and we are meant to be like everybody else. And then we should have good grades and we start to compete and compare with each other. So we have been living in thousands of years. We have been living in these fear and lack-based perspectives. And we have also been living in times where we have given our powers and our free will away to others. And we have been living ruled by our egos, right? Because the ego's purpose is mainly survival. The ego's purpose is to keep you alive. It has nothing to do about thriving or evolving. It is just to keep you safe, to keep you in your comfort zone, right? But the soul has very little to do with the comfort zone. The soul is the higher consciousness that is here so we can evolve. So we can evolve as human beings, right?
Yeah. But the ego can, because it wants to survive, then there's like greed, right? Like, no, I want all of this so I can stay alive, whether it's like food or power or money, right? And we happen to get very trapped here in the ego. It's so easy for it to really run the show. I mean, I think personally for my whole spiritual practice so far in my 37 years on this earth is just, it's a constant kind of like, no, that's my ego. This is my soul, like trying to separate, although it is all together too. I understand what you're saying. It plays a role and it doesn't have to just be negative, but separating like, you're going to fail. You're going to do, it's like, so just all the noise in your brain all the time. I call it my ego. It seems like that's a huge part of this experience is just constantly trying to be aware of what is ego. It's kind of exhausting sometimes.
It is. And it's so interesting. If you just take a look at the word government, for instance, govern means rule or, power over, and ment is mind. So basically it's mind control.
That's interesting.
Government means mind control. Yeah. And we allow them to decide what is best for us or not. Right. So that's also what I mean, that this great awakening or the evolution of our divine souls is also to take our powers back. Like, who am I? I'm sovereign. I'm free, and since the soul resides in every cell within the body, that means that the body is divine too. And we have this inner knowing what is good for me or not. But we are not trained or encouraged or practiced in that area because we have given our powers away, to religious system, political system, school system, for others to sort of dictate the terms. And this is all about coming home to me. Like, does this resonate with me to do this? No. But we are not practiced to feel that. So we are more practiced to listen out here, what people are saying, and everybody wants to be, included and in the community. So it takes a lot of courage and also a lot of consciousness to really move inwards and to feel what resonates with me, what is good for me, because it doesn't matter if it's mandate or not, or whatever it's about, it doesn't have to be in a specific topic, but does this resonate with me? Is this for my highest good? And who out there is to know what's best for me? But again, we have been practiced and we have been programmed to listen to and to, over the years, over the centuries, to comply, to obey, to adapt, whatever it is.
Yeah, every major organization, if you will, school, church, healthcare, government, and again, good things within organization, being a human on earth, we need some of that. But you're right. It's very just like you're trained to kind of just not question. Luckily, right now within this overused term, but it is, I believe, really happening. There's an awakening happening, the Great Awakening. Homeschooling, hybrid schooling is becoming more, natural healing. There's a lot of really great things happening right now. COVID helped break a lot of that up, here in the States, Black Lives Matter and the rioting and the violence, defunding the police. Woo, a lot of chaos, but it's shaking it up. People are starting to look and think, this isn't really working. You know what I mean? And so it's good, but It's so hard because I guess I'm asking for some advice and your perspective on this. I have my days where I'm like, this is awesome. Like I'm a spiritual warrior. I'm waking up. Everything I feel like I've learned is crumbling. This is uncomfortable, but like I can do this. I'm inspired by people that I'm meeting like you that are doing so much great work. And then I'm also like, this feels so defeating. Like, why would we come here? It feels cruel almost. I'm making a little bit of a joke, but we're coming here and we're spending over half our life. It takes me to wake up to this. Why couldn't I have known this sooner? And I realize that's like my soul's journey and I'm honoring that. But it does feel a bit exhausting that like everything here feels so like, not everything, the organization aspect, society and everything. I know we have so much to learn. It's like an earth school, but it just feels so like defeating. Like, why were we born with this amnesia? Like, I just wish we could all just know our inner truth. And I think that's part of my spiritual challenge and growth is to not rush things. Like, I just want everyone to be happy and have this like new earth and like love and everything's great. But I realize, like you said, this has been happening for centuries. And if you really believe in like Atlantis and past civilizations, this isn't the first time. Like there's like, you know what I mean? Civilizations that will go extinct and it could happen again. That's going down a rabbit hole. But I guess sometimes I just feel like, oh my gosh, when will we just like figure it out as a universe and just be able to be in this like love state, all just connected to source? Like it just feels, and I believe in reincarnation too. It just feels a bit exhausting. So sorry to go down such a tangent, but I guess I'm looking for some advice. And I know probably that's too much of my mind, but how can I be more just like, hey, just go with the flow. Like this could be my 1,000th life trying to wake up.
Yeah, I think that we are like, as human beings, we are too hard on ourselves. And that's also when we are too much in the head space, because if we are in the heart space, that's about love and compassion. But again, our hearts is often blocked by all these frozen emotions that hasn't been expressed fully or hasn't, flown or moved through you properly. And I would say what you're going through is both, on an individual level and also as we see it on the collective level. We need to move through this because there ain't any quick fixes, right? Like my own journey, I can assure you there's not a quick fix or, easy fix, or I wanted it. I wanted, just to get rid of all the pain and the self-hatred and the suffering. But we need to move through it so it can transform, because we have also been a part. We have unconsciously, in this lifetime or previous lifetimes, been a part of what is going on today. We have all been a part of it because we have all been perpetrators. We have all been soldiers and we have all been victims. And it's all, residing within the self. And we write so much about it here in this holy fucking sacred water that we really need to, if we want to raise our vibration, we need to move inwards. And it's like a purging the sacred water of our cells, of our, tissue, since we consist of 70% of water or more. And there's so much pollution, so many programs that are, residing within ourselves and within the holy water of our sacred beings, our sacred vessels. So we need to transform them so they can be more light.
And I mean, that could take lifetimes, yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't, because your soul signed up for this, even though that you can't remember, but your soul, each and every soul signed up for their own journey for the beneficiary of your soul's evolution and for the beneficiary of us as a race, our evolution. And even if what I'm saying is resonating with you or not, it doesn't matter, because the soul knows. There's not a coincidence that we are here or that we chose to live, in this particular time. Hundreds of years from now, if we still exist, it depends on how many people, comes awake, or if we have, extinguished ourselves, then we're going to read in the history books about this period of time that we are in, and we have chosen to be here for some reason, right? each and one of us comes with a divine assignment. But it's so much easier to be busy and to be distracted by the infinite possibilities to be distracted in matrix. Work, sex, alcohol, drugs, you name it, food, blah, blah, blah. And it's so much more difficult for many of us to move inwards because we are not taught this way. We are taught to have our, focus out here and to really, feel the pain and to embrace it and to acknowledge it without numbing myself with pills or medications or jabs or work or whatever. It takes a lot of courage.
Yeah, it does. Because you can't just numb yourself. You actually you have to feel it. And yeah, I thank you for I wonder, I'm sure there's people that might be feeling similar to, that's why I brought it up, just what I've been going through in my own awakening. Just, it all resonates with me. I like everything we're talking about. I believe we're here, for our soul's purpose, and we picked to be here and all those things. And, but I'm still human. Of course, I have those days where I'm like, man, this is hard and it feels exhausting, but mostly I feel happy and I'm obviously so grateful for it. And I don't know, it's just, sometimes I'm like, oh, it took me like 30, I started waking up a few years ago, but it's like 30 into my 30s. It took me to wake up, and that's fine because this is my journey and I'm grateful for it. But, think about if you knew some of these things as a child, and that's the beauty, right? With a lot of these children coming in that are more intuitive, or, I have a baby now and I'm awake. I feel like I will raise her differently and give her the opportunities to maybe think about these things sooner. This is an opportunity for this continued collective awakening. Children that are more aware early on to look within, right? So there's a lot of positivity. I know there's probably people that are on all over the spectrum that haven't even heard about this stuff, that are have heard about it 30 years ago. There's people like me that are into it and been working on it, but still sometimes it just feels, whoa, this is overwhelming, but yeah.
And I totally agree. I'm 50 and I'm like, oh my God, why did I choose this, journey or this lifetime? Sure. I mean, I could have been living on a beautiful tropical beach and, eating coconut and making love on the beach every day. Instead, I'm here in cold Sweden, sure. Frigid and very strict.
But you probably, I actually thought of this when you were saying you probably picked to be in a culture that was more repressed because you needed to work through that in this lifetime.
Exactly. But I'm like, oh my God, what did I think of? And I'm like 50 and I truly believe that it's all about, remembering who we are and coming back together. And again, we are so much focused on time, here in Western cultures, we're so much focused on time to be productive. We want it to move fast and we want to, to be over and done with. But what if, this old saying, it's not the goal. It's not the goal, but it's, the final goal. It's the journey. It's the trip, because we are human beings. We are souls in human bodies having the human experience, and they are infinite possibilities from divine source.
Absolutely.
But I totally agree with you, and I feel exhausted, as an empath these 2 last years and what's been going on individually and collectively, because it's like this. I cannot only watch what is going on out there again in the collective. Oh my God, they need to wake up. Sure. Because the inner and the outer realms are always reflecting each other and triggering each other. So what I see in the outer world is also triggering me, into my own growth, into more purging, into more transformation. So
that's perfect.
We are very much entangled. It's not something that I can just sit back and watch what the others are doing, because I'm very much part of this as well. And to hold a high vibration, whilst experiencing all these very low vibrational things that have been going on for the last 2 years, a lot of fears, lack, these very low vibrational stuff. So I don't have advice. I'm just saying I'm sitting in the same boat as you do. So yeah.
I think it's a fine balance, right? Of like I always say, we are human. We're here. This is part of our experience. You have to participate to some degree. You choose society. Part of you can observe, part of you can partake. But I also think that, there's a balance of like, you can't shame people for not being awake, and because that can then create like a spiritual ego, right? I'm not saying you're saying that. I too feel the same way. You're observing, you're like, what the hell's going on in the collective? But then you also still have to look, what the hell's going on here? I'm also like loving myself. I'm doing my best. I can see people are trying. I'm loving them. Maybe there's things they haven't awakened to. Like, I'm going to be patient and wait for you. When you're ready, I'll be here for you. And then I know I'm not where somebody else might be. And so that's why we have to be careful with this great awakening term, because it's like, you can't be like, oh, they're asleep, I'm awake. Well, I'm going to continually awaken, I hope, my whole life. So it's not I say that humbly. But yes, we need to be careful because it's so triggering right now. And I really think mostly it's a good thing. I think things are coming out. It's a hard time to go through this, but I see a lot of opportunity. And luckily, there are so many people like you. There are so many books. There are so many ways to heal that we weren't aware of. There's yoga, there's Reiki healing, energy healing, chakra clearing. Like, there's so much available, but we have to be able to tap into that and not get so distracted. And it's easy right now to just be distracted because it's so stressful out there. But really, isn't this the time really we should be going more inward?
Exactly. And it's like, I can sit here being a yogi and practice love and light, and then there's a post on Facebook and I get agitated, you should not do like this, or then I can, or I can preach love and light to others, but I don't have any love and light for myself or any compassion for myself or for my behaviors, for my fears that are coming up. So for sure, we're a big part of this.
Yeah. Well, I know we have so much to talk about still, and I feel like but I think this has been amazing. Perfect timing. And I really are you able to share the name of the book that's coming out in June?
The fixed name is not ready, but it's going to be something with divine soul and sacred journey through time and space or something like that.
I'll have to follow up with you or keep an eye on your website, because I would love to read that, because I've been anything I can get my hands on just with what we're going through now and understanding it. And there's just so much to think about and talk about and practice. But before
then I really recommend this first, the Holy Book, because this is really, even though that I've written it with a friend of mine, it's when we wrote it, we felt like it was a universal truth coming from that we all know, but we have forgotten. Yeah. So this book is really, we move from the micro perspective all the way from the cell all the way to the universe, like the macro perspective. And then we talk a lot about the divine feminine and the divine masculine and how distorted it has been again over the, centuries with the suppressed of the feminine and the enhancement of the masculine.
And that's what's going on now, really, is there's like this shifting. Whoa, there's too much.
And that's also where we need to balance, as you were saying, Lauren, because everything is about balance, high and low, outer, inner realms, the feminine, the masculine, yin and yang. And the energy throughout, thousands of years have been like this, very, very imbalanced. Yeah. And as we all, we have all the elements, we have both yin and yang, the feminine and the masculine within us, whether we are, in female bodies or masculine bodies. But if the feminine has been suppressed, that's also like an expression of the frozen emotions that I've been talking about. And the masculine has been too enhanced. This is like we always have to move forward. We always have to do things. We always have to be analytical, logical. We overthink, And so this also creates such a big imbalance that now Mother Earth, nature, is sort of balancing up. And we as her children living on the planet, we can feel it. We can feel this shift and we can feel this paradigm. And it's all about coming together in, unity and oneness and wholeness.
I was actually literally going to say that. So we're on the same wavelength. I've been fascinated about Mother Earth, and like it's a conscious, not being, it's a conscious planet. And I didn't know about that for years. So it makes so much sense now, but there's so much shifting right now. And I think there's been so much that's not been great here. And it's almost like Mother Earth is just like, no, I'm not supporting that any longer. And it's
exactly
wild, but it's so good. I wanted to ask you too, before we close, yoga therapy, because that's something that I've been really interested in. Maybe we'll have to do another episode and we can talk more about it.
Yeah, let's.
I think there's just so much to talk about. This is more of like the balance and the energy, and but I would love to like tap more into the specifics of some of the ways to heal. So yeah, maybe this is a part 1, but
yeah. And I feel what we've been talking about is also because yoga, obviously the word yoga means union and connection. So it's also about having this balance that we've been talked about, balance of my inner fire, my inner water, balance, what we see out there and what is going on inside of me, the feminine, masculine, etc. So yoga therapy is similar to this, but we can go into more practical, like the next episode or something. But it's been really, really helpful for me and for the people that I've been working with, because yoga also here in the Western world, we have sort of changed the original meaning, because yoga is so much more than just doing a posture or asana. But we think, I'm going to do 5 sun salutations and these advanced exercises, and that is all good. I'm not saying it's bad, but it's more to it, so much more.
The breathing and the mental, and that's
exactly where you have your intention to connect, to move down from the headspace, the sympathetic nervous system, and to move into your heart space and to activate the parasympathetic nervous system, and where the heart is where the feminine and the masculine also meets and connects. So there's so many aspects of it, and it's on a deeper level that we use the term yoga here in Western cultures.
So do you use yoga as a therapy though, not just like going to a yoga class? Like, are you using it for healing specific things? Like if someone came to you and was like, I'm really struggling with like a loss that I've had in my family, or, inner problems, like could you actually kind of tailor the yoga practice to that specific thing?
Yes.
That's really cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And also depending on your bodily type, or, so it's tailor-made, and it's considering all these aspects that we've been talking about, balancing the aspects, and also to make us come back home to who we are and to remember and to connect more on a deeper level. So yes, it's amazing. It was when I had my yogic consultation from my teacher, it was really a game changer for me where I was in my life when I was depressed. So that was a huge key, and I understood a lot of all the things that had been imbalanced. And then I also do like soul readings and karma clearings. And when I did that a couple of years ago, it was also like, wow, so everything I've been struggling with, it's because I've had these programs from previous lifetimes that I haven't even been, aware of. So then I can do this karma clearing and like a reboot, a reset of my soul. So yeah, there's so many amazing things to the aid to come closer to ourselves. Yeah,
absolutely. And I think before I was in the like awareness of my awakening, I did yoga a lot in my like 20s, and there's always just something about it I was really drawn to. And I feel like with COVID, with the studio shutting down, and then I had a baby, and I just haven't been in that place where I've gone a lot, but I really miss it. And there is just something about it. You can't describe it. It's just, you're so in the moment. You're not distracted by other things. And for me, I need that help. It's like a way to meditate, in a way. But I really love yoga so much. There's so much physical, mental, heart, like just everything. It's so connected. It's beautiful.
It is. I love it too. Yeah, I totally agree.
I miss it. Wow. Well, I feel like we'll have to just do a part 2 because there's just a lot to talk about. We didn't even get to talk about your other books. And I want to ask you, are you getting more sleep?
I am getting more sleep, but I've also come, both to acceptance and, love and compassion for myself, because my weakest points are still my sleep.
Okay. But you're getting more than 15 minutes?
I do.
Oh, good. Okay.
I do. And particularly, I'm not worried about it the same way I was as I write into 2:47 a.m. because then my whole life was around this sleeping, and I was really scared because also that might also be a program. Who knows? Maybe we don't need 8 hours of sleep.
But we've been told, everyone probably needs more or less. Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. Wow.
Yeah. So I sleep better, but
I'm
when
glad
I
you're getting more than
stressed,
15 minutes.
For sure, I do. Yeah.
Good. Well, this is really a wonderful episode, and like I said, I think this is everything. The fact that we both had our hearts. We need more love for ourselves, and then also for the collective.
Exactly.
Hang in there, everybody.
And it starts with ourselves because I can't give love out there if I don't feel it for myself. And I know it's a cliche and it sounds so much easier than it is, but it starts here. To start to love, all your shadows, your wounds, your darkness, because that's where we can grow.
I totally agree. Yeah. Mm. Well, thank you for being here. And where can people find your books? Where can they find you online?
And so first of all, thank you, Lauren, for having me and for having this heartfelt conversation. Yes. I really liked it. And thank you also for listening. So you can find the books, in the States, you can find them on Amazon. 2:47 a.m., The Journey Home to My Heart, and Holy Fuck and Sacred Water, The Secret Connections to Everything is on Amazon. And my website, if you want to have a yoga consultation or karma clearing, I'm ulliskarlsson.com. So it's ULLISKARLSSON.com.
Perfect.
And the site is up and running, but it's not perfect and it's not updated. Okay. So I'm sorry for that.
No, it's great. And we'll link it in the description so people can easily, find your books and find you too.
Thank you.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for being here. And thank you everybody for listening. Hang in there. We've got a wild ride, but we're in this together, and just show yourself and others some grace right now. Specifically now, but always. And you can catch me online at Instagram at RealLaurenLive, and then on my website, Lauren.live. I hope you enjoyed today's show.